Drake Salinger was one of New York's hottest up-and-coming photographers. He was a graduate of Columbia, but he built his business on a huge social media following through his unique portrait photography. He started at the bottom, and with that hard work and dedication, he was now one of the most sought-after photographers in New York. While there was something to be said for hard work, dedication, and talent, it couldn't hurt that Drake was extremely easy on the eyes. He also carried himself with a relaxed demeanor that put his clients in the type of mood that made them pose for great photographs. His portraits were compelling, yet playful. They were artsy, yet approachable. Drake loved reflecting the heart of his subject in their expression, and he was good at doing it. He was a true professional when it came to capturing portraits, a skilled craftsman who loved his medium. Macy was thinking about the photos Drake had taken for her wedding invitations as she stepped inside his studio. It was a beautifully decorated room. It had an open feel but was clearly sectioned off into different areas with a vast array of backdrops, furniture, and props. Macy had been in a few studios in her day, but none like Drake's. She couldn't help but smile as she looked around. She remembered the scene where her soon-to-be husband was acting silly and then serious for Drake's camera. She got butterflies just thinking about him.
"Macy!"
Drake's deep voice penetrated the silence, causing Macy to jump.
"I'm sorry,"
Drake said. He and Macy converged in the center of the studio, and he took the object that was in her hand before offering her a sideways hug. He was a big guy, so Macy playfully gave him a couple of hard slaps on the back of his ribs when they embraced. He smiled at her.
"This is awesome,"
he said, staring at the object he'd taken out of her hand. It was a custom-made, egg-shaped tiny bassinet that Drake had made for some newborn portraits. He hired Macy to paint it so that it looked like it was an actual egg.
"I love it," he continued. "I'm glad we went with brown."
"I am too," Macy said.
"I can change it in Photoshop if I want to experiment with other colors."
The egg was heavy, but Drake held it up to inspect Macy's paint job. The way she painted sections of tiny speckles that made it look just like a real egg. "I sanded it a little right here so it would look more like it had cracked open," Macy said. Drake touched it and stared like he thought it was the most interesting thing.
"It's perfect,"
Drake said. "It was your idea," she said.
"Yeah, but you made it come to life."
That comment led them into a whole conversation about Brian, the guy who had fabricated the little egg-shaped wonder. He was a mutual friend of theirs, and they spoke about him for a few minutes. Macy's art was all about painting found objects, and she told Drake about a few things she wanted Brian to make for her. Drake had some cash set aside for Macy's efforts with the egg, so she followed him back to his office as they wrapped up their conversation. They were in his office when she got a text from her sister. Macy had been expecting the text, so she took her phone out of the back pocket of her jeans right when she heard the sound of the notification. She sighed and then smiled as she stared at the screen. "It's my sister," Macy said, with some relief in her tone. "She's asking me to come up to her work and get my niece, which is a good sign."
"Why is that a good sign?"
Drake asked. Macy seemed a little shaken up, which made Drake regard her with a concerned expression. "She brought Isabel to work with her today because her creep boss was going to be in the store, and she didn't want him to—" Macy stopped talking and regarded Drake with a regretful expression. "Actually, I don't know if she would want me telling you any of this," she said. "It's my sister's business. She's trying to get him to write a reference letter before she quits that place, and she swears she's not in any danger. She's a grown woman, and I know she's doing what she's got to do. I just worry about her, you know?"
"No, I don't know," Drake said. "I'm not sure I understood what you just said. Is your sister in trouble?"
"She's got this creep jerk for a boss who tries to hit on her or whatever, but she's worked her way up at Patterson and she can't just up and quit. At least she doesn't think she can. She blames herself for this whole thing with her boss, which is totally wrong." Macy paused and smiled at Drake as if to say she was sorry for saying more than he wanted to hear.
"Are you saying she takes the little girl to work with her because she's scared of her boss?"
Drake asked, wearing a confused expression.